On August 27th, 2026, we have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. There will be changes for every single one of us in some particular area of our lives. Well, guess what? Today we're looking at what you don't see. We're looking into the patterns because everything that becomes the outcomes, the predictions, it all begins in the patterns. The seeds that we plant now, the choices that we make, it all contributes to the outcome. Let us see what is going on energetically. What is this lunar eclipse anyways? How may this affect us? What are the patterns at play right now in our lives? Let us see what all this is. Let us dive right in. We begin by looking at the symbol, the practicality, the physicality of what happens when we have a lunar eclipse. As opposed to a solar eclipse, with a solar eclipse, the visual image, the physical thing that goes on is that the moon comes in between the sun and the earth, which creates a solar eclipse. But when we have a lunar eclipse, the moon and the sun, in between that, we have the earth. So the earth comes in between the sun and the moon. But let's understand the energetic concept of what the sun is, what the moon is, as well as the earth. Now I'm going to channel this intuitively to help you understand what you don't see here. Astrologically speaking, the sun is what we shine out the most. It's closely associated with the ego. Because just think about the instincts when we talk about our signs or ourselves. We go off of our sun sign. We have the moon sign, we have the Mercury, we have Venus, we have Jupiter. We have all of these things, but we typically showcase, externalize our sun sign. That's what we show off the most. Oh, what are you? I'm a Capricorn. I'm a Taurus, Aquarius. That zodiac sign that we show off the most is the sun sign. The sun is associated with the ego. And the moon, on the other hand, the moon sign is associated with the innermost parts of ourself. It is your emotional side, your empathetic side. It's connected to your feelings, it's connected to your soul. And then we have the earth. In this context here, the earth would be this physical world we live in. The combination of that soul and the ego and how they work and come together so that we have that full human experience, that earthly experience, because you need both. We need to have the ego as well as the soul to fully participate, learn, and evolve and grow on this earth. That's what the soul has come here for, if you may. As you may have heard, we are spirits, we are souls having a human experience. And even though the ego has a negative connotation, the ego is necessary. It is necessary for the human experience. Yes, we hear death of the ego and, oh, that person has a big ego and all of these things, but the ego is necessary. You should feel proud of yourself when you accomplish something. You should desire certain things. You should have a healthy sense of willpower, tenacity, drive to want something. You should feel good about things you accomplish. That's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. As a matter of fact, that is part of the human journey, the human experience. And those things are connected with a healthy sense of ego. So it is necessary. But there are the shadowy side, the darker side of the ego. When the ego is out of balance, it can create a problem. And when we have an unhealthy ego, it's not just about being too prideful, boastful, all of those things. An unhealthy ego could also look like self-sacrificing, playing small, because you may believe the less space I take up, the less I feel about myself, then I will be loved and accepted. That is also an unhealthy part of the ego. So it could play out in different ways, but this is to say that the ego is part of the human experience. Now, when we look into the moon, which is the soul, empathy, compassion, that is also part of the human experience. We need that here on this earth. We need to be empathetic to ourselves and to others, compassionate to ourselves and to others. We have to be emotionally understanding of the world around us and also understand ourselves emotionally. But the moon has a shadow side as well. The shadow side of the moon could look like a lack of empathy, lack of compassion for self and others. It could also look like emotional imbalance and coldness and emotional manipulation, and the list goes on. Lack of vulnerability. So both the sun and the moon can express in a healthy, balanced way. The ego and the soul can be expressed. The ego and the spirit can be expressed in a healthy, balanced way, but it could also be expressed in an imbalanced way as well. So that's something to keep in mind, to understand the energetic symbolism of the sun and the moon. And then we have the earth. The earth becomes the playing ground. It becomes where all of these things play out. It is a neutral field where we get to use the ego and use the soul. But the earth also could represent that neutral place, right? It is where we have this energy of free will. This is where you come in. So with the lunar eclipse, it's this energy where we get to observe our soul, our spirit. We get to observe our inner self, the parts of ourselves that we keep hidden, that vulnerable side of ourselves. And we also get to observe the ego parts of ourselves, the externalized versus internalized version of ourselves, to essentially bring them both into balance and understand that it's not about separating them or, in some words, demonizing one compared to the other, or connecting them in a distorted way. It's about finding a way to allow a healthy part of our ego as well as our soul to work together so that we can integrate both and experience the wisdom that both of those bring into our lives as we participate in this human experience here on this earth. Now we understand the concept of the sun, which will be the ego. Then we have the moon, which is the soul. And we have the earth, which is that neutrality. So when the earth comes in between, I want you to think of a scale, right? It comes in between. And it's saying, on one hand, you have your ego. On the other hand, you have your soul. Are these parts of yourself balanced? Is one carrying more than the other? Are you separating the two in a way that isn't helping you, isn't teaching you, isn't helping you evolve? So there's something about integrating the soul and the ego. There's something about integrating what you externalize, but what is also internalized within you. There's a theme of integration. And so with the lunar eclipse bringing about the energy of endings and changes, it brings forth an energy that helps change this separation we may have when it comes to what is externalized and what is internalized. It closes out any sort of distortion, any sort of confusion when it comes to what we connect with in terms of our ego versus what we connect with in terms of our soul. It's helping us bring the two, the marriage between the two is helping us find that middle ground that we may not have thought was even possible or may not have realized that was missing. In some area of our life, there would be that theme of the soul as well as the ego. And the lunar eclipses bring into our life. It helps us to integrate something. And that's what we may not see, because everything that happens with intention. So even though things may come up, there's a reason for this. And just like I spoke about the ego, there's a reason for it. And it's all about balancing the energy out. So the eclipse shouldn't scare you. Whatever ends is putting an end to a distortion. Whatever ends is putting an end to confusion. Is putting an end to a separation that you may not have seen that may have in fact been detrimental. Now, when we think of Pisces, because this lunar eclipse is taking place in the sign of Pisces, Pisces is very closely associated with that sort of moon-like energy, because Pisces is the ruler of the 12th house. In astrology, we have 12 houses. Every one of us. The 12th house is the house of your inner world. Literally the parts of yourself that are deep within you, your subconscious. So it's very fitting when you think about Pisces energy and the moon and the lunar eclipse. It sort of is very fitting. Pisces again is the soul. It is about that spiritual essence. It is the essence behind the physical self, where we surrender. Again, very fitting. Now, with this lunar eclipse taking place in the sign of Pisces, you want to look into your chart and you want to look into where you have Pisces in your chart, because that is where this story and this pattern is playing out. That is where, if there is a separation, a distortion around the ego, if there is a missing link between what you externalize and what is internalized, the lunar eclipse in Pisces, whatever house you have that in, there could be an ending, something that comes about to help you end that confusion, that distortion, help you end that separation. I'll give you an example of how this could show up. For example, you have Pisces in the 7th house. The 7th house is all things relationships, professional relationships, personal relationships. So those of you with Pisces in the 7th house, you would be Virgo risings, because Virgo is the opposite sign of Pisces, and the first house is opposite the 7th house. So with Pisces in the 7th, Virgo automatically sits in the first house. Pisces sitting here, and this lunar eclipse, you're wondering, what is going on? What does this mean for me? What am I not seeing? Like I spoke about the lunar eclipse, there is something bringing about, I want to say brewing up in some capacity, to help put an end to some kind of distortion, confusion, separation between that sun, again, that ego, as well as the soul, that moon energy. And it's very Piscean in nature. Pisces is a very dreamy energy. It has a lot to do with romanticizing things, idealizing things. That's Pisces. Wherever you have Pisces in your birth chart, there's an element of creativity, idealism, fantasy. It represents sort of that dreaminess, the things that we hope for, but in this very creative, magical, romanticized way, idealistic way. And then we have this element of the lunar eclipse that is saying, hey, you don't necessarily have to separate this soulful side of yourself, this inner side, and the ego side, the external side. You actually can bring these two together and work with them in a healthy way. You can dream about what you want, and you can also have and ground what you want into this reality. This energy for Virgo risings, Pisces in the 7th house, it could look like maybe in some way fantasizing about the kind of relationship that you want, the kind of partner you want. Romanticizing the idea of the partner you want, the kind of people you want to work with, maybe even professionally, fantasizing about it, dreaming about it. But when the time comes to materialize this desire or these desires, there might be a disconnect. This will look like someone who wants that romantic relationship or wants a specific kind of love life. Maybe they want someone who is very expressive and you can talk about your feelings. But when time comes to actually share your own feelings or talk about things or take the practical, the physical side of this to make it happen, there could be an energy of, oh no, I'm asking for too much. Oh no, I don't want to do that. That's way too much. This could be someone who desires clear communication and fantasize about having clear communication or maybe even having healthy boundaries and connections. But then when it comes time to assert those boundaries, they may find themselves people pleasing. They might find themselves withdrawing from doing that. And so the lunar eclipse brings this energy up to help close out this cycle for you, to help you understand that you can, in fact, fantasize and romanticize this idea of what you want in this partners, whether it is a professional or personal. You can romanticize it, you can idealize it, but you could also have it. You could also ground it. You can also materialize it in this world. Think of the sun, think of the moon, and think of the earth. Lunar eclipse. It could show you ways that you have separated the idea of what you want versus the reality of what that is. When it comes to, for example, Pisces in your 7th house of relationships. On the flip side, this could look like someone who maybe wants that romantic, dreamy, and emotionally intimate connection with other people. But they may just show up in a sense of like, I'm just gonna walk the walk. You may have Pisces in your 7th house, and it's not just gonna be about staying in the fantasy side of things, the romanticized side of things, and not sort of grounding it physically. It could actually be flipped for some of you. This could look like everything is so grounded, but we are lacking the magic. We're lacking the whimsical side of things. We're lacking the sort of emotional, because Pisces is also water, is emotional. So this could look like you showing up, or someone in a relationship who gives a lot. Maybe they give a lot of things materially, right? That would be sort of that externalized energy. You're doing a lot physically, but a part of you desires, or maybe you show up in a very physical way, hence the ego, but to your own detriment, because there could be a lack of connecting to that more soulful side of the connection. So it could be flipped. It could be that in some ways there's staying in the fantasy side and not taking that physical action towards materializing what it is that you want, grounding it, believing that you can physically have it. Or it could be flipped where you have this physicality, you are showing up in some way physically, but lacking when it comes to the soulful side, connecting emotionally with a partner maybe, or having this sort of practical way of showing up in connections, but missing that sort of magical element, missing that emotional side, empathetic side of connecting with others. And the lunar eclipse may be bringing up this for you to help you recognize this pattern so that you can balance the energy out. Everything is about coming back to center, coming back to balance. When we say we want something healthy, when we want a healthy connection, partnership, healthy routines, whatever the case might be, it's all about balance. So this could be bringing up this energy for you to balance out, to know that whether you're showing up in the more sun-like way, where you're showing up in a more grounded material way and then lack in the more soulful way, this lunar eclipse brings that up for you to understand that the two can coexist. You can show up materially and you can be this person that is doing a lot physically, yet you could also shift the energy. That way it's more balanced. Because what could happen here is when we're too focused on one side of the scale, it creates a distortion. So when there's too much fantasy and less groundedness, it creates a problem, right? There's an imbalance. We stay too much in our heads. We stay too much in the mind, in the fantasy side of things, and we're not able to align with the kind of relationship that is needed for us. We're not able to align with a balanced connection. And when it's also flipped on the other side, when we're just do, go, showing up in a more material side, just like the externalized version, the sun, the ego, we also lack that soulfulness, that vulnerability, that richness of the soul when it comes to a connection. So the connection may feel very superficiality when it comes to connections, and not feeling that soulful bond with others. And the lunar eclipse brings an opportunity to close out such patterns. Say this is taking place in the second house, for example. The second house is the house of what you own, is your assets. It's your own sense of value, self-esteem, self-worth. So Pisces sitting in this house, has there been some kind of separation between that sun energy, the ego, the moon, the soul? How do you deal with money and your possessions? This could look like someone who fantasizes about what it is that they want to own. Oh, I want to have this amount of money. I want to have this kind of house and car. Think about it. The second house is material things. It's naturally ruled by Venus and Taurus, right? It has a lot to do with what we possess and is very material in nature, pleasure, things we desire, etc. So Pisces sitting here, there could be a lot of fantasies and maybe not enough of grounding that fantasy into reality, knowing that I desire this and I romanticize the idea of having this amount of money or having this kind of property or having this kind of possession. I have all these things that I idealize when it comes to what I want to own. But what about what that looks like and actually having it? This is about merging the two together, knowing that you can hope for these things and romanticize the idea of these things, but also grounding these things, these ideas and this fantasy and these idealistic things, grounding them into reality. And knowing that you could actually have them. It's not just about dreaming about these things, actually having these things. The lunar eclipse brings about this epiphany, closing out certain patterns that have separated the two. You think Pisces could also be about, again, self-sacrificing. Because Pisces is this boundless energy. It's when we think of fantasy, when you fantasize about something, there are no limits to what you can fantasize about. That's why I say dream big. Pisces is very much connected to Neptune. It's this boundless way of envisioning things and romanticizing what could be. The shadow side of that energy is that there's no boundaries, right? You're just sitting in this space and thinking and wishing and wanting and desiring. So when it's not in balance, it can manifest in the physical sense of not having those practical steps, the practicality to manifest into the reality. One could self-sacrifice what they want. One could easily bypass what it is that is needed to align with what they want physically. And this is an opportunity to end such patterns. On the flip side, what this could look like with Pisces lunar eclipse here, for those who have been so focused on the imbalanced side of the ego with the sun energy, this could look like going towards things just for the sake of possessing things. Because the second house is what you own, is money, it's the material things. This is just going after things just to be possessive, not having a sense of empathy, a sense of deeper connection to why you are going after these things, why you are wanting to possess these things, how these things are connecting to you on a soul level, wanting something, even though it is impacting your sense of inner peace. Pisces is not saying, hey, just stay in fantasy, don't have the money or the things or the material things. It's not saying that. And neither is it saying, have the material things and don't care about the essence, the soulful side of whatever it is you're pursuing. It's about bringing the two together. So the lunar eclipse presents you with an opportunity to bring both sides together. The physical, the internal, all of those things. Understanding that, yes, it is healthy to want to have your own money, healthy to want to have the material things, healthy to desire something, second house, but also making sure that in some capacity there's a balance on a soul level. And if you've been losing yourself for the sake of what you want to possess, or possessing things just for the sake of possession, the lunar eclipse helps to shift that energy for you. Let's go with the 11th house. You have Pisces in the 11th house. What is the 11th house? 11th house is about your hopes, your goals. And this is the grand hopes and wishes, those big goals and huge desires and wishes and all of those things. How you want to impact this world. Because 11th house is also humanitarian energies. The shift we want to make, the bigger impact we want to have, the way we want to transform and sort of create revolutions, revolutionize the world, innovate the world. That is all sitting in the 11th house. But it also represents the larger crowds, community, large friend groups, and all those things. So with Pisces sitting in the 11th house, automatically Virgo is sitting in the 5th house because the 5th house is opposite 11th and Virgo is opposite Pisces. So Pisces here, there could be something that is distorted when it comes to the sense of the ego and the soul. This could look like fantasizing of how you want to impact society at large. It could look like how you want to innovate, create revolutions. This is those beautiful goals and aspirations you have. And so there might be a lot of fantasy about it. But when it actually comes to having a healthy sense of ego and materializing these things, grounding these ideas into reality, there could be a disconnect. And this lunar eclipse brings forth that change for you, activates that energy to change this, to know that you can romanticize the idea of wanting to make these changes and revolutions and innovations and impact. The 11th house could also represent social media, for example. This could look like you wanted to have your own platform, wanted to have your own community, fantasizing that idea, idealizing that idea, but also realizing that there might have been a disconnect in what you felt that you wanted, what you idolize versus what you believe that you can have physically when it comes to that area of your life. And there comes this opportunity to put an end to whatever has been separating that belief you have inside, as well as what that looks like physically, that internal and then the external. Knowing that if you can fantasize about it, if you can dream it, you can actually make it happen. And on the flip side, this could look like if you have just been following through with certain causes, just doing things and being part of revolutions, just doing just to do versus connecting back to your soul. Do you have this dreams and aspirations just because you feel like you have to have these dreams and aspirations? Are these things really beneficial to you on a soul level? How do you feel internally about these things? Do they bring you inner peace? Are you connected to these things spiritually as well? Do they satisfy you on a soul level, or are we just moving based on ego, and not just that ego, the unhealthy part of the ego? Because once we're too leaned into one side, the energy piles up there and it distorts the energy. And so with that being said, the lunar eclipse brings forth this energy to look at the disconnect the separation, the distortion there, and helps you bring the two together. Know that you can dream about these things and you can actually materialize them, but you can also materialize these things and still find a way to connect back to your soul essence when it comes to your hopes, the things you want to shift in society, your large groups, etc. Those of you with Pisces in the first house, this looks like, again, going back to the concept. You can be a spiritual being. You can be very much connected to your empathetic, compassionate, emotional, creative, spiritual side while still having a healthy sense of ego. You could still be the soulful person and still want to shine and still want to receive your accolades and still want to hold a sense of power when it comes to who you are as a person, a sense of authority. And so Pisces risings, if there has been a separation between the externalized version of you versus the internalized version of you, or the side of you that desires certain things physically versus the side of you that is more internalized and recluse, there it becomes this shift here. The lunar eclipse could help activate these changes to happen, where it allows you to see that, oh, I can be both. And as a matter of fact, through this human experience, I need both the ego and I need the soul. I can be this spiritual being, this creative person, empathetic person, all of those things. And I could still also be someone who demands respect, wants these things, and connects with the physical world. And on the flip side, if you've just been focused on the physical and the more material side of things without connecting back to your soul, the lunar eclipse helps you do that. Pisces could also be about distortions, confusions, not seeing things as they are, like Neptune energy. It blurs the line. And for a while, things may have been blurred wherever you have Pisces in your birth chart. So you have to look into your chart, look at that house and what the house represents. There could have been things that may have been distorted, blurred out, that you may not have seen in regards to separating that soul and that ego, which could have then caused them to be distorted. Because when you separate them, it could cause detriment of that energy. It could sort of distort the energy. So the ego could become oversaturated, then becomes a problem. So you're realizing that the two are necessary, the moon and the sun, the soul and the ego. And the more we work and we integrate both, we see the beauty in both, we balance both out, we naturally keep them in a healthy space. We master them. We know what it means to have a healthy sense of ego. We also know what it means to connect to our inner world in a healthy way and not just stay in this inner world of ours out of fear or just fantasizing without believing that anything can materialize from this magic we have within us. This is about being able to balance both sides of the scale and knowing that, again, with the lunar eclipse, the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, and knowing that both is needed here in this earthly experience. I hope this brings you all clarity, guidance on your path forward. And be sure to check out my comment under this video with all of the rising signs in regards to how the lunar eclipse will bring these changes into your life. Take care of yourself and have a beautiful lunar eclipse. Bye for now.